Dear listeners, before we get started, drop a quick hi in the comments and let us know where you're tuning in from. Also, if you have any suggestions for us to make the channel better, please let us know. Now let's start with the story. So it's a Wednesday, right? Midweek burnout is setting in, and I'm on revision number 15 for a client who apparently believes just one more tweak is a personality trait. They've turned their logo into something that looks like the mutant offspring of a word art experiment and a bad tattoo. I'm already one bad font choice away from flinging my laptop out the window. At 3 p.m., I throw in the towel. I decide, you know what? I'm calling it a day. Screw Helvetica. I'm going home. Maybe binge something dumb on Netflix, microwave some leftover pizza, and pretend I'm not questioning every life choice that brought me to this freelance designer hell. So I pull into my driveway. Nothing seems off. Margaret's car isn't there, which checks out. She usually gets back around 5:30. All good. I'm already mentally queuing up that docuseries about con artists who think they're influencers. Comforting, in a twisted way. I unlock the front door and immediately hear the TV blasting. Like, full-on surround sound experience. Which is weird, because I'm compulsive about shutting everything off before leaving. Seriously, I once turned around 10 minutes into a road trip because I thought I left the toaster plugged in. So naturally, I'm thinking maybe Margaret came home sick. Or maybe the place is haunted by a ghost who really loves daytime television. Her car wasn't out front, though, and the lights were off. Still, I step in, expecting silence. And instead, boom, love it or list it, is screaming from the living room. And that's when I see him. There's this dude, just lounging on my couch like it's his couch. Feet up on my coffee table. Not perched. Not sitting politely. Lounging like a Roman emperor. He's got my leftover pizza from last night. My pizza, the sacred pepperoni relic I'd been saving for emotional support. And he's flipping through channels like he pays rent. He looks like he lost a bet with personal hygiene. Scraggly beard, t-shirt that probably used to be white, but now is beige adjacent, and basketball shorts that have clearly survived a war. His whole vibe screams, I peaked in 2011. For a second, I genuinely think I'm being robbed by the laziest burglar in history. Then he looks up. No panic. No, oh shit, I've been caught. Just a chill. Oh hey expression. Like I'm interrupting him. Like I'm the intruder in my own house. Who are you? I ask, trying not to sound like I've lost my grip on reality. And what the hell are you doing in my house? My brain is doing backflips. Maintenance guy? Drugged up squatter? Margaret's long-lost cousin who thinks trespassing is quirky? The dude doesn't even blink. He takes another bite of my pizza, and says, oh, you must be Charles. I'm Jackson. Margaret gave me the keys. Excuse me? He says it like I should be honored. Like Margaret handed over the keys with a little welcome basket and a smile. No context. No explanation. Just Jackson. And that's when it clicks. Jackson. That Jackson. The name I've only heard in passing. Usually when Margaret's drunk and nostalgic, or when she's explaining why she can't go back to that one bar. Jackson, with an X, because of course it's spelled like that. The one she dated for 3 years before me. Jackson. The one she supposedly cut ties with when things got serious between us. The one who, according to Margaret, was completely in the past. Her exact words. I remember them. You don't even have to think about him. Right. Totally forgot to not think about the unemployed guy now parked on my couch, like it's the VIP lounge at a pizza buffet. And then it hits me. She gave him keys to my house. My house. Not our house. My house. I'm still standing there, mentally buffering like a laggy YouTube video, trying to process this information. Wait, I manage. She gave you keys to my house. Jackson nods like I've just caught up to the syllabus. Yeah. For emergencies, man. Emergencies? I repeat, blinking. What kind of emergencies require Netflix, pepperoni pizza, and full-on lounging? Sometimes I just need somewhere to hang out during the day, he says, like he's explaining physics to a toddler. My parents' place gets a bit intense. And then, as if to really hammer in the audacity, he takes another bite. Of my pizza. The same pizza I was planning to eat tomorrow. The one I had emotionally bonded with after surviving that client from branding hell. So now here I am, standing in my own living room, watching my girlfriend's ex-boyfriend eat my food, use my remote, and comment on the feng shui like we're in an open house. And he's talking like this is the most reasonable arrangement ever. Like this isn't the most insane thing that's ever happened in my entire adult life. Like Margaret handing out keys to my house without so much as a heads up is just your standard girlfriend behavior. Like everyone does this. How long has this been going on? I ask, each word sharp enough to cut glass. Oh, couple months now. He shrugs. Margaret's cool about it. She knows I'm between jobs right now. Just needed somewhere to chill, you know? Between jobs. Sure. And I'm between yachts. From the looks of him, he's been between jobs since Blockbuster was still a thing. A couple months. So my girlfriend has been letting her unemployed ex-boyfriend use my house as his personal man cave for months, and I didn't know. I'm paying the mortgage. I'm paying the utilities. I'm paying for the internet he's using to stream reruns of Cops, or whatever this disaster of a day has led me to walk into. And Margaret? Apparently, she's treating this place like a damn community center. I asked the only question that might salvage a shred of sanity. Does she know you're here today? I'm praying. This is just some massive misunderstanding. That maybe he's only supposed to come by when I'm not home. Which, yes, would still be completely unacceptable, but at least it would show some vague awareness of boundaries. Nah, she's at work, he says, as casually as if we're old friends chatting over beers. But she said I could use the place whenever I needed to. Oh, fantastic. Just a standing invitation, then. A fully transferable lease agreement with the ex. Cool setup you got here, by the way, he adds, gesturing around the room with my pizza slice like he's a real estate agent and I'm the client. Way better than my parents' basement. So not only has Margaret been letting him use my house without telling me, she's given him full access. No schedule. No heads up. No. Hey Charles, hope you don't mind that my ex is using your couch as a full-time job. Just make yourself at home, Jackson. Mi casa es tu casa. He comes and goes as he pleases, in the house I pay for, using the water I pay for, probably streaming using the Wi-Fi I pay for, while eating the food I shop for. And I'm just standing there, hands on my hips like some budget version of an angry sitcom dad, trying to keep my blood pressure below hospital visit. But it's not just about the keys. Not just about the pizza. Not even about the absolute gall of a man who wipes his greasy hands on my throw pillow. It's about respect. Basic. Fundamental. Respect for your partner and their property. So apparently, Margaret has decided that my house is actually her house. And not only that, it's a fully shareable public facility open to whoever she feels like inviting over. Lovely. Can't wait for the next surprise guest. Maybe her ex from high school needs a nap and some leftover lasagna. I look at Jackson, still comfortably sinking into my couch like it's got his name engraved on it, and say, as calmly as I can, "You need to leave." He scrunches his face up like I just told him I'm canceling Christmas. Come on, man. Don't be like that. I'm not causing any trouble. Just watching some TV, eating a little snack. A little snack, he says. My pizza. I say internally, mourning the slice that died so this man could thrive. I'll be out of here before Margaret gets home, if that's what you're worried about. Oh, there it is. The fact that he thinks I'm worried about Margaret knowing he's here, and not the fact that he's, here at all, tells me everything I need to know about how this has been sold to him. She's probably told him I'm some jealous, controlling boyfriend. A real, you don't understand our deep spiritual bond type narrative. The classic rom-com villain setup. Me as the uptight, fun-hating guy, and Jackson as the misunderstood free spirit who just needs a safe place to vibe. I take a deep breath through my teeth. I'm not worried about Margaret knowing. I say slowly. I'm telling you to get out of my house, because you don't belong here. Right on cue. Because of course, the front door opens. I hear her voice like a scene from a sitcom pilot that got canceled after one episode. Babe, I'm home. Perfect timing. Or terrible timing. Hard to say. Feels like the universe just wants to see how many plot twists it can throw at me before I throw something else. Margaret walks into the living room, sees the two of us, me standing there stiff as a board and Jackson mid-bite with the confidence of a man who thinks he's doing nothing wrong, and freezes. I swear, there's half a second where her soul visibly leaves her body. But then, like she's rehearsed it in the mirror, she recovers. Slaps on this big, bright smile. The kind of smile people wear when they're trying to sell you a timeshare or convince a cop they totally didn't know they were speeding. Oh hey, she chirps, like she just ran into us at the grocery store. You two met. Charles, this is Jackson. Jackson, this is my boyfriend, Charles. Like we're all just here to vibe. Just a casual hang between friends. Oh, sorry, didn't realize this was a damn brunch. Should I make mimosas? The silence that follows is so thick you could bottle it and sell it as artisanal awkwardness. Margaret's still smiling like a malfunctioning animatronic hostess. Jackson's eyes are ping-ponging between us like he's watching a particularly tense Wimbledon match. And I'm just standing there trying to figure out how my girlfriend thought this little social gathering was going to go smoothly. I finally say, through a jaw so clenched it might crack, we need to talk. I gesture toward the hallway. Privately. Like two sane people might do when their relationship is clearly on fire. But no. Margaret, oh sweet, oblivious Margaret, waves it off. We're all adults, she says. We can discuss anything in front of Jackson. Of course we can. Because apparently the unemployed ex-boyfriend who's been treating my living room like his personal man cave is now part of our relationship's inner circle. At this point, I'm honestly wondering what that makes me in this twisted little hierarchy Margaret's cooked up. Because clearly, Jackson is the honored guest, entitled to pizza, premium cable, and possibly squatter's rights, while I'm, what? The angry landlord? The glorified roommate who doesn't vibe with the community vision? So I look Margaret dead in the eye and ask the most basic question any sane human would ask. When, exactly, were you planning to tell me that you gave Jackson keys to my house? She doesn't even flinch, just shrugs like I asked her when she last flossed. I don't know, she says, suddenly getting this defensive tone. It just never came up in conversation. Oh, never came up. Right. Just one of those little details you forget to mention, like picking up milk, or that your ex-boyfriend now has unrestricted access to the home you share with your current boyfriend. Totally normal. Because yeah, handing out keys to someone else's house is such casual small talk that it would slip anyone's mind. Happens all the time, right? Oh, by the way, I gave Brad access to your Netflix. Oh, and I let Jackson into your house while you weren't home. Same diff. Then comes the golden justification. His living situation is complicated, she says. Complicated. Sure. Let me translate. He's a grown man living with his parents who apparently needs a safe space whenever his mom has book club. He's not running from the mob. He's running from Carol and her Pinot Grigio. And naturally, the solution, rather than, say, therapy or headphones, is to turn my house into his personal escape room. And not once, at any point, did it occur to Margaret that maybe, just maybe, she should run this idea by the guy who actually owns the place. So I say that. I calmly, okay, semi-calmly, point out that major decisions about who has keys to my house should maybe, I don't know, involve me. And boom, she hits play on the greatest hits album of Manipulation 101. First, I'm being controlling. Then I'm paranoid. Then she pulls out the nuclear warhead. Wow, this is that toxic masculinity I keep hearing about. Ah yes, because clearly, expecting to not come home to her ex-boyfriend eating my pizza in his discount pajama set is the hallmark of oppressive patriarchy. I knew you'd react like this, she says, and that line right there, that's the giveaway. That's the line of someone who's rehearsed this whole thing in their head like a scene from a bad indie drama. She's been planning for this conversation, probably practicing it while Jackson was double-dipping chips in my salsa. And the really twisted part? She and Jackson have obviously talked about this. You don't drop toxic masculinity in casual conversation unless you've got a game plan. She's been painting me as the unreasonable boyfriend. You know, to make her behavior look justifiable. They've probably had whole heartfelt chats about how I don't understand her, while he sits on my couch, eating my food, watching my streaming services. I mean, the layers of disrespect here, they're practically geological. I try, one more time, to explain, calmly, like I'm a kindergarten teacher breaking down the concept of basic boundaries, that this isn't about controlling her friendships. It's about respect, Margaret, I say. Respect for your partner. Respect for their property. Respect for the... And she cuts in. It's our house, Charles. I live here too. Oh, do you now? So I hit her with some cold, hard, overdue reality. Yeah, you live here, Margaret. But your name isn't on the mortgage. You don't pay utilities. You chip in for groceries, sometimes. That's it. The words come out sharper than I meant them to. But honestly, I'm past the point of sugarcoating. Her face flushes red, and I know I've hit a nerve. But it's a nerve that needed hitting. Margaret's been acting like she has equal say in what happens in this house. As if there's some official co-ownership agreement filed under being my girlfriend for 2 years. The reality? She's basically a long-term guest with light housekeeping privileges. Sure, she helps with groceries now and then, sometimes loads the dishwasher if the mood strikes. But let's not pretend this is a 50-50 arrangement. This is a your name's not on anything and your ex has a key arrangement. Then she starts tossing out words like ownership and control, like I'm some kind of cartoonish villain sitting on a throne made of mortgage papers, growling at anyone who touches the thermostat. I'm not trying to control you. I say, I'm trying to not have strangers camping out in my living room like it's a damn hostel. But the gaslighting at this point? It's Olympic level. Thick enough to wade through in chest-high boots. Thick enough to drown in if I stand still too long. And the funniest part, the absolute chef's kiss of irony, is when she tries to spin this whole mess as me not respecting her friendships. This is about you not wanting me to have friends, she says, arms crossed like she just nailed the point. All right, I say, that's the issue here. Not the part where you've been lying to me for months while sponsoring Jackson's little daily vacation from reality at my expense. Because let's be clear, this isn't a friendship. This is a loyalty rewards program. Jackson shows up, eats my food, watches my TV, and Margaret earns passive-aggressive points toward gaslighting me into thinking it's totally normal behavior. She's either completely delusional or banking on me being just dumb enough to buy this version of events. Meanwhile, Jackson, who up until now has been sitting there like a human beanbag chair, starts to realize even he can't spin this anymore. He clears his throat, all awkward. Maybe I should go, he mumbles, glancing around like he's just remembered he has somewhere else to be. I don't want to cause problems between you two. And for a moment, I think, yes. Finally, the man has found a scrap of self-awareness beneath the layers of pizza grease and unemployment. But nope. Margaret jumps in like a mom defending her toddler from a stern librarian. You're not causing problems, she says quickly. Charles is just being unreasonable. Right. Unreasonable. Because expecting not to be third-wheeled in my own house by my girlfriend's ex is clearly the behavior of a madman. At this point, it's clear she's doubled down. She's in too deep. She can't back down now without admitting she's wrong. And let's be honest, Margaret would rather wrestle a bear than say she's wrong. So instead of accepting the graceful exit ramp Jackson just offered, she escalates. If you kick him out, she says, all righteous indignation, then I'm going with him. And there it is. The ultimatum. The classic move of someone who thinks they're holding all the cards, who believes their partner is so afraid of being alone that they'll tolerate any amount of disrespect to avoid it. But here's the thing about ultimatums. They only work if the other person's actually afraid of losing you. And as I'm sitting there, watching my girlfriend of 2 years throw down the gauntlet on behalf of her unemployed ex-boyfriend, it hits me. What I'd be losing isn't worth keeping. So I nod. Calm. Cool. Done. Go ahead, I say. But don't forget to come back tomorrow and pack your stuff. The look on her face? Priceless. Pure, unfiltered shock. Like someone just told her brunch was canceled forever. She genuinely thought I'd fold. Thought I'd grovel. Thought I'd thank her for helping me recognize my controlling tendencies, while Jackson picked crumbs off his tank top. Instead, she's standing there with her mouth slightly open, rebooting. Gladly, she manages to spit out, but her voice wavers. Just a little. Enough to tell me the confident mask is slipping. And then, just to tie a pretty little bow on the whole disaster, she hits me with, I can't believe how childish you're being about this. Childish. Because of course, the mature thing to do is sneak around behind your partner's back and then call them names when confronted about it. She storms off to the bedroom like it's some kind of dramatic movie exit, tossing her hair and mumbling under her breath. Jackson trails behind her, looking like a confused puppy who just realized his favorite chew toy is also capable of yelling. I'm guessing the reality of their situation is starting to hit him too. His free all-inclusive hangout package just got revoked. And now? Now he gets to be the emotional support human for the woman who turned my living room into a surprise episode of Who Invited This Guy? They're both gone within 10 minutes. The door shuts behind them. And just like that, the house is quiet again. But not the peaceful, I'm home early and gonna binge something trashy on the couch, quiet from yesterday. No, this is the weird, echoey quiet of something ending. Like the moment the credits roll after a bad movie, and you're just left staring at the screen, wondering why you didn't walk out sooner. I walk around the living room, still half expecting to find a sock Jackson forgot or a pizza crust stuffed in the couch cushions. But there's nothing. Just me, my thoughts, and the faint outline his butt left in my sofa cushion. And then it hits me, relief. Like I've been carrying this dull, nagging feeling for weeks, maybe months, and suddenly the weight is gone. This was what had been off. This creeping sense that something wasn't adding up, that I was missing a piece of a puzzle I didn't even know I was solving. Now I know what it was. Now it all makes sense. And once your brain starts going down that road, it really doesn't stop. How many other decisions had Margaret been making behind my back? How many boundaries had she crossed that I just hadn't discovered yet? Was I just walking around in my own house, completely oblivious, while she was out here running it like a community rec center? Thursday morning hit different. I woke up in my own bed, in my own house. No extra person rustling around in the bathroom. No half-done makeup exploding across the sink. No passive-aggressive sighs about how I forgot to take out the recycling. Just me. Coffee. Silence. Bliss. I was halfway through my first cup when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I glance out the window. Margaret's trusty little Honda Civic, pulling up with the confidence of someone still convinced she's morally in the right. Right behind her, Jackson's beat-up Toyota Camry, limping into the driveway like even the car didn't want to be there. The cavalry had arrived to claim her belongings, right on schedule. What I wasn't expecting, though, was the attitude. Margaret strutted through my front door like she was doing me a favor. Not sheepish. Not sorry. Not even a little embarrassed. Nope. She had the energy of a celebrity making a court-ordered public appearance. She had this air of righteous indignation, like I was the unreasonable one. Like she was the gracious one here, gracing me with her presence while fulfilling the totally unfair and oppressive request of moving out of the house she secretly gave her ex a key to. Jackson followed behind her, doing that awkward nod thing people do when they walk into a room they feel like they're not allowed to be in. He looked like a guy who'd been guilt-tripped into helping, probably with a "you're the only one who understands me" speech that ended with "please carry my shoes." Not that he had much else to do now. His free entertainment center had officially closed for business. "This won't take long," Margaret announced, brushing past me like I was the doorman at a hotel she didn't like. She didn't even make eye contact, just headed straight for the bedroom like she was checking out of a cheap motel. I didn't follow. I stayed in the kitchen, sipping my coffee like I was watching a wildlife documentary titled The Displacement of the Domestic Narcissist. The sounds coming from the bedroom said it all: drawers opening and closing, hangers sliding across the closet rod, an occasional thud like she was body slamming a suitcase just to make a point. She was being thorough, which honestly surprised me. I half expected her to just grab a couple outfits and storm back out, planning to return later once I'd cooled down and become more reasonable. But no, she was actually moving out. Not some performative flounce out where she slams a door and comes back 2 hours later to grab her charger and dignity. Nope. Boxes, suitcases, hangers, garbage bags, the full production. What really got to me wasn't what they said while they packed, because they kept their voices low, like this was some kind of heist, and I was the guard on break. No, it was the vibe. The casual, easy familiarity of it. Jackson knew where her stuff was. He was helping her decide what to take, what to leave. They had this comfortable rhythm, like this was muscle memory. Which made me wonder, had they done this before? Had she moved out of his place like this? Was this her standard relationship exit strategy? Wait until things get complicated, then pack up with the next guy lined up like it's a baton pass in a relay race. Okay, Jackson, you're up. Take the box, I'm out. Meanwhile, the current boyfriend, you know, me, sits in the kitchen, sipping coffee and pretending he's too busy scrolling through absolutely nothing on his phone to notice the dissolution of a 2-year relationship in real time. And Jackson, bless his useless little heart, tried so hard to be helpful. The man looked like someone trying to assemble IKEA furniture without instructions or opposable thumbs. He kept dropping things, bumping into corners, holding up random objects like, does this go in a box? Or at one point he just stared at a hair straightener like it was an alien artifact. Which makes sense, really. He's probably never helped someone move out of a house they actually paid for. He's usually the one being moved, or bailed out, or picked up by his mom after she finishes her mystery book club. At one point I heard Margaret snap at him. Be careful with that, it's fragile. I smirked into my coffee. Oh no, cracks in paradise already? Her knight in wrinkled gym shorts already getting scolded? And they haven't even been officially back together for 24 hours. Oh yes, very promising for the long-term success of whatever weird cohabitation fantasy they've got brewing. Can't wait to see how Jackson handles Margaret's wine glass organization system and her inability to ever decide where throw pillows belong. The whole process took about 3 hours. 3 hours to pack up 2 years of shared living. That's it. No grand montage. No dramatic rainstorm. No slow-motion goodbye hug. Just 3 hours, 2 cars, and enough cardboard to restock a UPS store. And that was that. All that time building a life together. All those arguments about curtains and what mid-century modern actually means. Undone in a single morning with duct tape and garbage bags. When they were finally done loading up, Margaret came back inside alone. I was still at the kitchen counter, scrolling through my phone and pretending I was very deeply engaged with an article titled, Top 10 Ways to Tell If Your House is Finally Yours Again. She stood in the doorway, awkward, maybe expecting a moment. Some dramatic send-off. I wasn't giving it to her. I think that's everything, she said eventually. I glanced around the now decluttered living room, my living room. No more unnecessary throw blankets. No more aggressively neutral decorative trays. No more plants that I swear only existed to remind me of how much I hate watering things. It already felt more mine. Looks like it, I said. She stood there like she wanted to say something else. Maybe a parting line. Something to land the scene and remind herself she's the one in control. I could almost hear the wheels turning. A zinger about how I'll regret this. A speech about how I need to be less controlling. Or the piece de resistance. How she was better off without someone who didn't appreciate her friendship with her ex. But whatever speech she'd practiced in the mirror or rehearsed with Jackson in the car, it never left her lips. Instead, she just turned around and walked out, shutting the door behind her with the kind of passive-aggressive force that says, I'm not slamming it, but I totally want you to know I'm slamming it emotionally. Through the front window, I watched the final scene play out like I was the sad third act in a bad rom-com. She got into her car, Jackson got into his. They had a little window-to-window chat, Probably something deep like, "So, you hungry? Yeah, let's go somewhere where I can talk about how misunderstood I am." Then, just like that, they were gone. And the silence they left behind, it was different. Not that heavy, hollow silence from the day before. This was cleaner, lighter, like the house had finally exhaled after months of holding in its breath and biting its tongue. I stood in the middle of my living room, taking it all in. For the first time in a long time, the house felt like mine. Not ours. Not hers. Mine. And honestly, despite the ridiculousness of it all, the ex-boyfriend squatter, the gaslighting, the emotional gymnastics, I felt good. Really good. Like I'd just been released from a very polite hostage situation. I was finally free to figure out what it might feel like to be with someone who didn't treat deception like a love language. Someone who wouldn't hand over keys to my house like she was Oprah giving out cars. You get access. You get access. Everybody gets access. The bar? Oh, the bar was low. I mean, we were talking don't weaponize your ex for emotional leverage low. But at least now I knew where the bar was. Which, in its own depressing way, felt like progress. 3 days. That's how long the peace lasted. 3 whole days. Sunday evening rolled around. I was on my couch, watching the game, eating pizza straight from the box like the cultured, well-adjusted adult man I am. Then I heard a car pull into the driveway. My first thought? Maybe I ordered something online and forgot. I've definitely bought weirder things at 2 a.m. Sunday deliveries weren't common, but they happened. But then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of Margaret's car, door slamming shut. A door with a squeak so specific and grating it had haunted my dreams for months. She'd been meaning to get it fixed for 6 months and, in true Margaret fashion, had absolutely not bothered with it. Then came the sound of wheels. Not car wheels. Not shopping cart wheels. Luggage wheels. I looked out the window, and there she was, dragging 2 suitcases up my front steps like she was checking into a hotel called Denial and Regret. Her hair? A complete disaster. Her clothes? Wrinkled like they'd been fighting a losing battle with a couch cushion. And her expression? Determined. Not hopeful. Not apologetic. Determined. Like she was about to solve a major problem through sheer willpower. The doorbell rang. The doorbell. Which was interesting, because as far as I knew, she still had her key. So either she suddenly discovered manners, or 3 days with Jackson had taught her something about boundaries. Or maybe she figured I'd greet her better if she rang like a polite Jehovah's Witness instead of storming in like a returning dictator. I opened the door, and she immediately launched into what I can only describe as the prelude to a Disney Channel apology arc. "Hey babe, I missed you so much. I'm back," she said with the same tone you'd use after getting home from a yoga retreat. Not after dramatically storming out with your ex-boyfriend and abandoning our relationship like a half-read self-help book. No apology. No explanation. No mention of the emotional explosion that had taken place just 3 days earlier. Just this weird, chipper announcement that she'd decided to grace me with her presence again. Like she was returning to a vacation rental she forgot she'd paid for. Then she did the thing. The move that told me everything I needed to know about her mental state. She tried to walk past me, suitcases in hand, just casually attempting to wheel herself right back into my life like this was a Marriott check-in desk and I was customer service. But I stepped in the doorway, blocked her path. She blinked up at me like I was the unreasonable one, like I was supposed to clear the runway and throw rose petals on the floor. The entitlement was Olympic level. "What are you doing here, Margaret?" "I live here," she said, all matter of fact. Like it was just obvious. "I know we had a fight, but I'm ready to work things out now." A fight? She called that a fight. Like we disagreed about pineapple on pizza. Not the whole secretly gave your ex a key to the house I pay for while lying about it, and then left with him when I called you out thing. But sure. Yeah. A little spat. A misunderstanding between passionate lovers. Just a quirky chapter in our sitcom romance. I could see her starting to get annoyed that I wasn't rushing into her arms sobbing. "Thank God, you're home." She probably spent the whole drive over playing out the reunion in her head. Me, heartbroken and lonely, waiting for her like a widower with a wilted rose. "Things didn't work out with Jackson?" I asked, because sometimes you just have to give people the rope and let them tie the knot themselves. Her face flushed red, which was all the confirmation I needed. 3 days. 3 whole days. And the fairy tale had already hit the fan. Apparently all it took was 72 hours of Jackson in his natural habitat, jobless, clueless, and probably allergic to adult responsibilities, for the spell to wear off. "That's not what this is about," she said quickly, trying to regain the upper hand like a bad poker player doubling down with a pair of threes. I realized I was being hasty. "We have something good together, and I don't want to throw it away over a misunderstanding." Misunderstanding. Now we downgraded from betrayal and gaslighting to a hoopsie. Just a little mix-up. A hiccup. The kind of thing a Hallmark movie solves with a snowstorm and a spontaneous group hug. Forget that she gave another man unrestricted access to my home. Forget that she left with him like I was the unreasonable one. Now I was supposed to believe that this was all one big communication error. Like we forgot to sync our Google calendars and accidentally nuked our relationship. And the best part, the absolute icing on the gaslighting cake, was how she acted like she was doing me a favor by coming back. Like this was some gift she was offering. Like I should fall to my knees in gratitude because she decided to reconsider leaving me for a guy who probably still uses his parents' Wi-Fi. This wasn't an apology. It was a desperate Hail Mary to avoid the consequences of her choices. Jackson doesn't have his own place, she continued, as if this was some shocking twist I hadn't already deduced from the entire aesthetic of Jackson. You don't show up to someone else's house in basketball shorts and 3-day-old facial hair if you're rolling in real estate options. He's still living with his parents, she added, with a little shrug, like it was just a minor speed bump on the road back to my guest bathroom. So there it was. The truth, finally. She hadn't come back because she missed me, or because she'd suddenly developed a conscience, or had some life-altering epiphany about trust and betrayal. Nope. She was back because her backup plan came with a twin bed, a shared Wi-Fi password, and no long-term prospects. Apparently, she found out the hard way that a man who eats other people's pizza in borrowed living rooms might not be ideal long-term housing material. Then came the kicker. His parents don't really like me, she said with a pout, as if that was my cue to feel bad for her. Oh no, not Jackson's parents. Not the elderly enablers who still let their grown son store Doritos in the linen closet. His mom thinks I'm a bad influence, she added, like that one line was going to shift the entire moral balance back in her favor. The irony of that sentence nearly gave me a nosebleed. Jackson's mom, who, let's be honest, probably had a rotating disappointment scale just for her son, still managed to zero in on Margaret as the problematic one. In a house that produced Jackson, she was somehow the bad influence. Meanwhile, I'm the controlling monster because I didn't want to wake up one day and find her ex in my bathrobe eating my cereal. And there she was now, standing on my doorstep with her suitcases, basically admitting that she left me for a guy who couldn't even offer her a spot on a futon. And somehow, she expected me to welcome her back like she was Ulysses returning from war. I didn't even raise my voice. I wasn't kidding when I said we were done, I told her. Calm, firm, final. She rolled her eyes. Come on, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. Because expecting a little honesty and wanting your home to be ex-boyfriend free is just such a diva move these days. Because having boundaries now counts as theater and self-respect is just a tantrum in a tuxedo. She tried a new tactic, an old favorite, really. Soft voice, slight tilt of the head, gentle concern in her eyes. Reasonable girlfriend mode, activated. It was the same voice she used when she wanted me to lend her my credit card, but pretend it was my idea. Look, I know I made some mistakes, she said, stepping slightly closer like proximity might blur my memory. But don't you think you're overreacting a little? I mean, I came back. That should count for something. Ah yes. In her world, returning wasn't a last resort. It was a loyalty badge. Not a desperate move because her plan became with curfews and passive-aggressive dinners. No. It was proof of her deep emotional investment. In her mind, the fact that she'd come crawling back after getting a 3-day refresher course on why her ex was an ex. That was supposed to be evidence of her commitment. Not, proof that she'd made terrible choices. Not evidence that she'd only left because she thought she had something better lined up. No. This was just her heartfelt demonstration of how much she truly valued what we had. A touching hallmark moment, really. You came back because you don't have anywhere else to go, I pointed out. That's not true, she snapped, standing there like she'd just been accused of having no Wi-Fi and poor credit. Oh, you have options. She opened her mouth, paused, closed it, and there it was. That perfect little pause, short, sharp, and silently screaming, I got nothing. Because if she really had other options, she'd be dragging her roller bags up someone else's steps right now, preferably Jackson's, assuming his mom wasn't holding book club in the living room. But she couldn't name a single person. Not one. Because the truth was, the bridges had all been torched, and she was only just now realizing the river doesn't care if you packed a bathing suit. She'd assumed I'd always be her safety net. She could bounce between me and Jackson like it was emotional hopscotch, confident that one of us would always be there to catch her. Only now she was stuck midair, realizing both squares are lava. The whole thing was like a textbook example of how some people operate. They torch everything behind them like they're starring in an action movie, then act confused when they're stranded on the other side with no way back and the villain still chasing them. Margaret had played both sides so confidently. She really thought she could orchestrate her own little soap opera and come out the hero no matter what. And now? Now she was learning what accountability actually looks like. And spoiler alert, it doesn't come with snacks or forgiveness on demand. I could see it starting to dawn on her. The panic behind her eyes. The realization that the usual tools in her emotional manipulation toolbox weren't going to fix this. That's when she tried again, physically this time. Not violent, just that sort of passive-aggressive shove you give when you think emotional momentum might count as consent. She muttered something about needing to just get inside and talk like adults, as if the location of our conversation was the problem. Right. Because clearly, this whole disaster wasn't about betrayal, disrespect, or turning my living room into a reality show lounge for unemployed exes. It was about where we were standing. I don't think so, I said, not moving an inch. My house, my rules. And rule number 1 is, if you leave me for a guy who's still asking his mom what's for dinner, you don't get to change your mind when the menu sucks. She blinked, stepped back, and for a second, I could see the wheels turning, the gears grinding as her old moves sputtered and failed. And that's when she switched tactics completely. Suddenly, Margaret was a whole new person, full of promises, like a politician 3 weeks before an election. This time will be different, she said, hand to heart like she was auditioning for a very emotional soap opera. I'll be more considerate of your feelings. I'll make sure you're comfortable with everything, especially stuff that affects our living situation. Ah yes, our living situation. That was her favorite phrase during this bizarre TED Talk on redemption. Our house, our relationship, like we were still co-owners of a timeshare and she'd just gone AWOL for a bit. No mention of the part where she dramatically left with a rolling suitcase and her ex-boyfriend like it was the final scene of a telenovela. She kept talking like this had all been some tiny hiccup. A coffee break. A commercial break in the sitcom that was our love story. Not a clear, intentional decision to bail on me the second something shinier, or, let's be honest, greasier, wandered into frame. And while I stood there in the doorway, baffled by her total commitment to revisionist history, she switched gears again. Remember when we went to that concert in Asheville? She said, voice soft, eyes wide. That weekend was so perfect. We were so good together. You even danced. You hate dancing. I stared at her like she'd just tried to distract me with a laser pointer. Was she really trotting out the look at the good times strategy? Yes, she was. Manipulation 101. It was like watching someone fast forward to the highlight reel of a doomed sports season and going, see, we weren't all bad. Sure, we had fun. But also, you gave your unemployed ex keys to my house and left with him on a weekday afternoon. You don't get to cite the concert we attended 8 months ago like that resets the scoreboard. Then, because she was truly committed to cycling through every tactic in the manual, she flipped the emotional switch to aggressive. You're being so stubborn, she snapped, throwing her arms up like she was the one being wronged. This is ridiculous, Charles. You're throwing away a perfectly good relationship over nothing. Nothing. Just casual betrayal. 0-calorie dishonesty. Emotional vandalism with a side of pizza theft. Nothing serious. She was getting louder now. Like maybe if the volume reached a certain decibel, I'd just magically agree with her out of sheer auditory exhaustion. I can't believe how petty you're being about this, she said. Like, seriously? You're really doing this right now? After everything we've been through? Oh, I was doing this. Neighbors were definitely hearing the show now. There goes my peaceful reputation on the block. I half expected someone to lean out their window with popcorn. Then came the personal attacks. I've put up with so much from you, Charles. You're immature, you know that? You hold grudges, you never let things go, and you're too proud to admit when you're wrong. Ah yes. Classic narcissistic finale. Reduce the rejection to my alleged character flaws. Apparently, she'd spent the last 2 years tolerating me out of the goodness of her heart, despite my irredeemable flaws like paying bills on time and not wanting my home turned into an Airbnb for exes. And then, she started crying. Not a subtle tear here and there. Full-on mascara run, shaky breath, Lifetime movie tears. I missed you, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I just want us to be happy again. Can't you see how much I love you? If I didn't have the entire mental PowerPoint of the past 72 hours burned into my brain. If I hadn't seen her drive off into the sunset with a guy whose biggest ambition was probably winning free Slurpees for life. If I didn't know exactly how much effort she put into not being with me. It might have been convincing, but I did know the timeline. I knew exactly how this story had gone down. No plot twists, no unreliable narrator. Just a clear sequence of dump me for her ex, followed by ex doesn't have Wi-Fi or space, or apparently even a mattress. And then, poof, she's back like Dorothy clicking her heels, hoping I'd roll out the red carpet. And those tears? Not for me. Not for us. They were for her current housing crisis. It was survival panic, not heartbreak. Still, she gave it her all. 10 full minutes of crying, pacing, dramatic hand gestures, Monologues about personal growth, emotional epiphanies. You'd think she just finished a soul-searching retreat in Bali, not 3 days on a futon in Jackson's mom's basement. She wanted one more chance. Just one. To prove I can be the girlfriend you deserve, she said. The Oscar committee should have taken notes. But when the tears didn't get her anywhere, because I wasn't emotionally blind or brain damaged, she went full feral. Suddenly, she lunged for the suitcases like a gladiator on a mission and tried to bulldoze her way through the front door. "I'm not leaving," she declared, dramatically, like this was a scene from Les Miserables. This wasn't even a negotiation anymore. It was a break-in attempt wearing skinny jeans and running mascara. She grabbed the handle of one suitcase and tried to squeeze past me with the other hand. It was like watching someone try to smuggle emotional baggage and literal baggage through airport security with no boarding pass. "This is ridiculous," she huffed, shoving with all the conviction of someone whose entire identity had been wrapped up in controlling a narrative that was now slipping from her perfectly manicured fingers. And there I was, standing in my own doorway, physically blocking the woman who, 3 days ago, was still my girlfriend and now looked like a rogue tenant staging a hostile takeover. She wedged one suitcase halfway inside, like maybe if she could get it across the threshold, the rest of her would just magically follow. "You can't just shut me out forever," she shouted, breathless, as she tugged on the handle like it was some emotional lifeline. "We need to talk about this." Right. Because obviously, nothing calms a situation like yelling, "We need to talk," while trying to breach someone's front door with Samsonite artillery. I finally grabbed both suitcases, lifted them out of the doorway like they were full of bad decisions, and promptly shut the door. Firmly, deliberately, satisfyingly. That didn't stop her. Immediately, the pounding started. Boom, boom, boom. "Charles, open the door. You're being unreasonable." She was shouting now, like maybe volume would override logic. "I'll call the police." "Yes, please do. Let's all explain this one together." "Officer, hi. Yes, I'm standing on the porch of my ex-boyfriend's house. I dumped him for my ex-ex. That didn't work out. And now I'm trying to move back in against his will because I'm out of options and short on rent money. Oh, and I still have his spare key." Yeah, that call would go over well. She kept going for a good 20 minutes. Pounding, pacing, ranting, like an unpaid extra in her own rejection scene. And then silence. Finally, blissful, glorious, emotionally wrecked silence. The banging stopped. The yelling faded. And then, the unmistakable sound of suitcase wheels scraping down my steps. But she didn't leave. Through the window, I could see her sitting on the hood of her car, legs crossed like she was posing for the cover of Poor Decisions Monthly. Phone pressed to her ear, brows furrowed, hand flailing, having what looked like a very intense conversation. Probably phoning in the cavalry. Maybe her best friend with the toxic positivity problem. Or her cousin who once stormed out of a Chili's because the waiter called her ma'am. Either way, I knew exactly what was happening. She was building the narrative. The Woe Is Me campaign was officially underway. Because Margaret? Margaret doesn't accept defeat. She doesn't lose. She strategizes. This was the woman who once guilted me into canceling guys' night because she had a feeling she might get a cold and wanted to be cuddled in case it developed. Spoiler, it never developed. But I still ended up watching The Notebook on a Friday night with a perfectly healthy human being. So no, she wasn't going down with grace or self-reflection. She was just regrouping. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, my phone started ringing. Caller ID, Margaret's mom. I didn't even have to pick up to know how this conversation was going to go. I could practically hear the concerned yet condescending tone already, the sweetheart S, and "I'm sure this is just a phase S. Decline." Then it rang again, and then her dad joined the offensive. Calling from his cell like this was a hostage negotiation, and I was the unreasonable one holed up with the demands. After the fourth missed call, curiosity got the better of me. I tapped voicemail to see what version of reality Margaret had uploaded to the cloud. Her mother's voice came through, all polite southern dismay and passive-aggressive honey glaze. "Charles, honey, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding between you and Margaret." "Ah yes, the classic misunderstanding. She's very upset and says you won't even talk to her about working things out." "Oh, you mean the conversation she tried to start by throwing her luggage through my door like she was storming the beaches of Normandy? You two have been so good together, and it would be such a shame to throw that away over a little argument." "Little argument? Apparently. You gave your ex keys to my house and let him turn it into his personal man cave. Now qualifies as a minor tiff. Right up there with forgot to buy milk or left the toilet seat up." Margaret had clearly given her parents the G-rated, made-for-family audience's version of events. The one where she's the loving girlfriend just trying to fix things with her cold, unforgiving partner who, tragically, won't even communicate. What she hadn't told them, obviously, was that she'd been secretly giving her unemployed ex-boyfriend access to my house for months. Not that she'd chosen to leave with him when confronted. No, no. According to the fairy tale version she sold to her parents, it was just a little disagreement between lovers. The kind of sweet misunderstanding that usually ends with forehead kisses and shared pints of ice cream. The voicemails kept coming. Her father took the firm, masculine wisdom approach, like I was his wayward teenage son who refused to mow the lawn. He leaned hard into his stern dad voice, which I'm sure worked wonders when Margaret was 15 and wanted concert tickets. Charles, he barked, relationships require compromise. Forgiveness. Don't throw away something good just because you're angry. Right. Because what better time to practice emotional flexibility than after being lied to for months and watching your girlfriend pack up with her ex like she was eloping to a clearance sale motel. Then came the kicker. Margaret is a good girl. She deserves better than being treated like this. A good girl. The good girl who turned my home into a day spa for her ex-boyfriend. Who bypassed every adult conversation about boundaries and respect in favor of sneakily distributing keys like they were party favors. That good girl. What really got to me, though, was the confidence in their voices. Like they knew what had happened. As if they'd done a full forensic audit of our relationship and found me guilty beyond reasonable doubt. No trial, no evidence, no testimony. Just Margaret cried on the phone, and suddenly I'm the villain in a Lifetime movie. The calls kept rolling in, each voicemail more dramatic than the last. Her mom had gone from gently disappointed to full-on exasperated, like I was late returning a casserole dish. Her dad started using phrases like, throwing your life away, and you'll regret this, which felt like a bit much, considering the woman in question once microwaved tuna in my kitchen and then acted shocked when I opened a window. Eventually, I had to block them. I didn't need to spend my evening being emotionally waterboarded by people who hadn't even asked for my side of the story. Apparently, context was optional when their precious Margaret was distressed. But the campaign didn't end there. Nope. When the phones failed, the texts began. Long, dramatic paragraphs about forgiveness, second chances, and how pride was the real enemy here. Then the sister got involved. The sister. She sent this novella-length message filled with helpful declarations like, I know my sister better than anyone, and she loves you so much. The whole thing read like a Hallmark card penned by a therapist in training with a savior complex. Her tone was the worst part. This smug, knowing voice like she was the keeper of Margaret's soul, and I was just some outsider who'd failed to unlock its magic. Because clearly, after 2 years of living together, sharing a life, navigating everything from flu seasons to IKEA furniture assembly, I still lacked the insight into Margaret's character that her sister had gleaned from wine nights and filtered Instagram selfies. According to the sister, Margaret had always been impulsive, but had a good heart. Right, impulsive. That was her chosen euphemism for secretly gave her ex access to my house for months. Not deceptive, not manipulative, not borderline squatter lord behavior. Just a spontaneous little oopsie stretched across an entire fiscal quarter. I mean, what even is time, right? When you're lying to your boyfriend and letting your ex-boyfriend camp out on his furniture. That's when I realized this narrative was getting out of hand. Margaret's family was doing full PR damage control like she was a disgraced celebrity in need of image rehab. I needed to get in front of this before it turned into a Netflix documentary titled, Controlling Boyfriend Ruins Girl Boss's Life. So I called my parents and asked if I could come over. I needed neutral, emotionally mature third-party insight. And free snacks. They let me in, handed me coffee, and gave me the couch. Not a couch. The couch. The one where all major family interventions and breakup postmortems have historically occurred. I started from the beginning. Logo client stress, surprise couch squatter, Margaret's Olympic-level mental gymnastics, the suitcase showdown, the door pounding, the family guilt campaign. I laid it all out like a lawyer giving a closing argument. Honestly, I should have brought a PowerPoint. To their credit, they listened the entire time without interrupting. Just nods, slow blinks, and the occasional eyebrow raise from my dad. When I finished, they were both quiet for a moment, the kind of silence that usually precedes life advice or passive-aggressive career suggestions. Then Dad hit me with it. Are you sure, he said slowly. You're not just being stubborn because your ego got bruised. Oof, there it was. The question I'd been mentally wrestling with all week. It wasn't unfair. I'd asked myself the same thing multiple times. Was I making a stand for integrity and self-respect, or was I just nursing a wounded male pride because she'd walked out with another guy? But going through everything again, explaining it step by step out loud, I realized it wasn't about ego. It wasn't even about Jackson, the human beanbag. It was about trust, about compatibility, about the fact that she'd lied to me for months, undermined the foundation of our relationship, and then gaslit me when I caught her. She lied to me for months. Dad, I said, calmer than I expected. Not about forgetting to take the trash out. About giving another dude keys to my house. And when I confronted her, she didn't even apologize. She called me controlling and left. My mom nodded slowly, her expression doing that quiet, mom math she does when trying to balance empathy with judgment. And now she's back, she added, because it didn't work out with the other guy. That was it. The moment it clicked for both of them. Their expressions shifted from cautiously neutral to fully activated parent mode. Like, Operation Protect Our Son from Dumb Girlfriend had officially begun. Then you're absolutely right to end it, Mom said firmly. Nobody should have to be someone's plan B. And that felt like I'd just dropped a 100-pound emotional backpack. Having someone, anyone, finally say what I'd been thinking in a clear, unfiltered way felt like a huge relief. I hadn't realized just how much the constant pressure from Margaret's family had been wearing me down until someone, finally, validated that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the villain in this bizarre little drama she was scripting. For a while, I was starting to wonder if I was the unreasonable one. I mean, she only lied for months, violated my trust, gave her ex keys to my house, and then left with him. What a petty reason to be upset, right? But of course, Margaret wasn't done. Margaret is never done. Saturday morning. I'm in my kitchen, coffee in hand, blissfully enjoying the rare quiet of a drama-free weekend when I hear multiple car doors slam outside. That's never a good sound. 1 car door is a neighbor. 2. Delivery. 3. That's a soap opera. I peeked through the blinds like I was living in a sitcom, and yep, there she was. Margaret. And flanking her like an emotional SWAT team, her parents. Apparently, showing up alone would have been too logical, so she brought backup. Because nothing says, I'm totally in the right. Like arriving at your ex-boyfriend's house with your mom and dad like you're getting dropped off at your 5th grade sleepover. The second I opened the door, they started their tag team guilt parade. Forgiveness. Second chances. Love conquers all. I even got hit with the classic, don't throw away something beautiful over a little mistake. You know, a little mistake. Like giving your unemployed ex-boyfriend free reign of your boyfriend's house for months without telling him. I shut them down politely. Okay, not that politely. Margaret's dad said something like, we're not leaving until you see reason, and I smiled, nodded, and did what any reasonable man does when cornered on his own porch by people confusing entitlement for righteousness. I called 911. Watching their self-righteous faces when the cops pulled up was chef's kiss. Like the universe finally decided I deserved a moment of karmic justice. They were politely escorted off my property like an unwanted HOA protest. The whole scene was so satisfying I almost wished I'd made popcorn. But Margaret? She still didn't get it. She never gets it. A few days later, she showed up at my job. Like we were in a romantic comedy, and she was about to win me back with a grand gesture. Except instead of a boom box and a song, she brought entitlement and lingering perfume from her guilt trip tour. So I did what the officer at my house suggested and filed a restraining order. Had her served. Right at her parents' house. The shocked Pikachu face she made. Absolutely worth it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't yelling, blocking, or posting vague quotes on social media. It's just having boundaries, and then actually following through when people try to cross them. Margaret learned something that day. Manipulation only works on people who are willing to be manipulated. I wasn't. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.